Looking at page 12, second page of section 2.4, we're going to continue on with radicals. Part E, 2x equals the square root of x. This time my radical's on the right-hand side, but that's okay. It's already isolated, it's already all alone. So I'm just going to rewrite it so I can make sure I have my original like it needs to be. And I need to get rid of that square root of x. So to get rid of the square root, or the square root on the x, I'm sorry. To get rid of the square root, we're going to square that side and we're going to square the whole other side. Keeping in mind when you square it, it's like 2x times 2x. The radical and the square go away and leave you x. Okay, on the left, 2 times 2 is 4. X times x is x squared equals x. Notice this is a quadratic because you have a power of 2. So anytime you have a quadratic, first step is to get one side to be 0. I'm going to keep my x squared positive. So to get one side 0, I'm going to subtract my x from both sides. And don't do anything crazy. I'm going to have 0 on the right. 4x squared cannot be combined with x. Those are not like terms. So I have just 4x squared minus x. Now also notice on this one, we have an x squared and x, but no constant. So I should have a common factor that I can pull out to get my factors here. So if you'll notice between 4x squared and x is common, so I'm going to pull it out and I'm left with 4x minus 1. Okay, so let's take a look at what we did. I had 4x squared. Basically, I divided one of those x's out, so if I take one of them away from the 2, I have 1 left. If I take this x and divide it by x out here, I just get 1. So you should be able to distribute this x back through here and get what you had right above it. Once I do that, here's my two factors. I have an x and I have a 4x minus 1. Same as before, I'm going to set both of those factors equal to 0. Okay, so x equals 0, I can't do anything there. Over here though, for the 4x minus 1 equals 0, I'm going to add 1. So that gives me 4x equals 1 and then divide by 4. So x equals 1/4. Okay, both of these, I have x equals 0. I'm just going to circle them so I can see them right now. And x equals 1/4, and I have to check them. So same as before, I'm plugging each of these numbers back up in here to my original equation. When I plug in 0 for x over here on the left, 2 times 0 is 0. When I plug it in on the right, the square root of 0 is 0, and 0 equals 0. So 0 actually checks. When I do 1/4, 2 times a 4th gives me 1/2. And the square root of 1/4 is 1/2. So I end up with 1/2 equals 1/2. And you can go home and plug those in your calculator and make sure you actually get the left side to match the right side. But in this case, both of those answers work. Okay, so pause the video for a second. I want you to try your checkpoints. Actually, try this first checkpoint. Go over it, I'll work it, and you can check it. And then we'll look at the second checkpoint together. Okay, so hopefully you paused it. I'm going to work through it with you. First thing to do is add 6 because I need to isolate that radical. So I have 7 equals the square root of 3x minus 5. To get rid of the radical, you square both sides. So you have 49 equals 3x minus 5. Now, one thing I haven't mentioned yet, but just so you know, when you see this radical like this, it's understood, we call this the index, that the index is a 2. So when I square it, that's why I'm squaring it, okay? And technically this would convert to an exponent that's a fraction, that you could see it a little bit easier, but just have you trust me on that. If that's a 2, then I can square it and get rid of it, and that's going to come into play in the next little checkpoint. Okay, because this is a line, I'm going to add 5 to both sides. I'm trying to get x all alone because it's not quadratic. So 54 equals 3x. Divide by 3, do not divide the x out. And x equals 18. And if you checked that, that one actually works. Okay, last one on the radicals. This time, this one looks a little bit different. I have a cube root of x plus 5 equals 4. Same situation, you want to get the root all alone, but notice this time I have a 3 instead of the understood 2 that's been on all of the rest. So with my 2, I square both sides. With my 3, I'm going to cube both sides. So my cube root and my cube go away and give me x plus 5. Keeping in mind, 4 cubed is not 4 times 3. It's 4 times 4 times 4. So 4 3 times gives me 64. And then again, this is not quadratic. So I'm solving for x, subtract 5, and x equals 59. And there is a cube root button on your calculator that you could check yourself. Okay, so on your calculator, on the left-hand side, if you hit math and you arrow down to number 4, it will give you the cube root. And then over here, when you're checking, if we said x is 59, we're gonna plug in 59 for x. So it'll be 59 plus 5. Hit enter and you get 4. And the question that we're asking ourselves when we check is that actually equal to 4? Because that's what was on the right-hand side. And the answer would be yes.